Could a big-time move be coming for the Minnesota Vikings at the cornerback position this offseason? Well, we're going to talk about it on today's edition of Vikings On by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. So apparently the Vikings are looking to add an elite cornerback this offseason, and that's what Ben Goessling is reporting, saying, I think having another corner that can develop and be kind of a shutdown type of player that's been a need for a while. I think having that type of presence at corner is a big priority, and I expect it will be something that they look at pretty aggressively this offseason. This is music to my ears. I have been saying this, covering the Minnesota Vikings for many years now, is that I would love to imagine what a Brian Flores defense would look like if you had a corner that could just shut down one side of the field. Obviously, no Flores so creative with the coverages on the back end, and if you could just have like a Pat Surtain level of corner and just say, hey, you can't throw the ball to that side of the field, I think Flores would absolutely have a field day. So it is good news that the Vikings are going to be pretty aggressive in targeting a cornerback, because the cornerback room right now, a lot of question marks. You only have two guys on the roster next season. I mean, Jeff Okudah and Fabian Morrow, both unrestricted free agents. So you just have Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers. Byron Murphy Jr. not really living up to that 3-year, $54 million contract. And Isaiah Rodgers, you take out that Bengals game, he was pretty underwhelming this past season. So coming up, we'll talk about some cornerbacks that the Vikings could trade for, that they could sign and possibly draft that fit into that shutdown corner mold. But if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. We are only 258 subscribers away from 70,000 here on the channel. So hit that sub button, daily Vikings content, and I promise you, 258 of you guys are not subscribed to today or to our channel watching today's show. So if you guys could, hit that sub button today. All right, let's talk about who the Vikings could target at corner. We got 3 trade targets, 3 free agent options, and then 3 guys in the draft. And these trade targets, I think these guys would all fall in the bucket of a true shutdown corner. Number one we're going to talk about here is Denzel Ward of the Cleveland Browns. Now, if the Cleveland Browns, they just want to keep on resetting and continue this rebuild going on in Cleveland, Denzel Ward could be on the trade block. I have no idea what he would go for in terms of, trade package. Like, would it be a second-round pick? Would they want a first? Would they want a third? I really am not too sure of what Cleveland would be asking for, but it does have a pretty tradable contract, which could help out both sides here, Cleveland and Minnesota. And if the Vikings had Denzel Ward, Byron Murphy, Isaiah Rodgers, that trio at cornerback is pretty good. And he's also like a true outside guy where, like, I think out of everybody we talk about here, I think he's probably the best man-to-man, just shut him down corner in the National Football League that we're going to be talking about. So Denzel Ward would have some interest there. And then also a Super Bowl champ, Trent McDuffie of the Kansas City Chiefs. Versatile guy, can play inside, can play outside, and really play anywhere on the defense. Very physical corner as well. Great tackler. I don't know if he necessarily falls into like the shutdown cornerback bucket that Ben Goessling was reporting, but he would definitely add more talent to the Vikings cornerback room. There's no doubt about it. So watch out for a guy like Trent McDuffie. Also, maybe a guy like Marlon Humphrey. Now, is he the same guy that he was a couple of years ago when he looked like he was a top 3 cornerback in the NFL? Not necessarily, but he's still very talented. And maybe with Jesse Minter, Anthony Weaver, new defensive minds there in Baltimore, that they could be looking to move off number 44. And I will say, this guy, if you follow him on Twitter, this guy's an absolute riot. He tweets out some of those ludicrous stuff. So I don't know if he would fit in too well with Minnesota, but actually had a good game against the Vikings this past season, and he's pretty good when he's playing his best ball, so watch out for him. But I do think it's more likely that the Vikings try to sign a guy instead of potentially trading for somebody. Now, I've talked about Jamel Dean here a whole lot. I think he is probably the only true shutdown guy that we're going to talk about here, since he is just fantastic. His past season, very good. 14 games played, completion percentage allowed of 45.5%, 311 yards, 1 touchdown allowed on the year, 9 PBUs, 3 picks, quarterback rating of 46.9. When targeted this past season, he's a true shutdown guy. Very high on him. Probably will end up getting around $17 million per year, and maybe the Vikings want to cough that up for a guy like Jamel Dean. Now, how about Alontae Taylor here of the New Orleans Saints? True free agent. Played pretty good on his rookie contract. Did not have the best year this past year when he was targeted. Did give up a lot. He's also an incredibly grabby corner, so kind of reminds me of like, not to the level of a Sauce Gardner, but like when teams were letting when refs were letting Sauce Gardner play, he could get away with a lot, and he could be one of the toughest cornerbacks to go against in the National Football League. Same could be said about Alontae Taylor. When you're letting him grab, when you're letting him get after it, could be pretty enticing for the Minnesota Vikings if they want to possibly go after him on a big-time contract. But also another guy from the Chiefs, Jalen Watson. Again, very good tackler. I think that's just what Spags, teaches up his cornerbacks to do. You got to play good in the run game. Chiefs always have a good run defense, and that's because their secondary players can tackle. Jalen Watson's fantastic. Completion percentage allowed this past season of 58.6. Yards given up 430. No touchdowns, 6 PBUs, 2 interceptions. Pretty damn good stuff there from Jalen Watson. But you guys let me know. Name a CB that the Vikings need to bring in. Drop that cornerback's name down below in the comments section. Now we'll talk about 3 guys in the draft here in just a second. But let me tell you guys about today's sponsor, one of my favorite sponsors, and that being Factor Meals. Now, if you guys head to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off, we'll hook you guys up with 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 whole year. Now, if you guys want to eat better but have 0 time and 0 energy to make it happen, Factor doesn't ask you to meal prep or follow recipes. It just removes the entire problem. 2 minutes, real food, done. You're not failing at eating healthy. You're failing at having those 3 extra hours every single night to make the home-cooked meal. And Factor is already made by chefs, designed by dietitians, and delivered to your door. You heat it for 2 minutes and eat. Lean proteins, colorful vegetables, whole food ingredients, healthy fats, the stuff you would make if you had the time. Now, they have over 100 rotating meals every week. High protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean, GLP-1 support, ready-to-eat salads. They got it all over at Factors. Just head to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. This offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. All right, let's kick it to the NFL draft now. Talk about a guy like Jermod McCoy. He is my number 1 cornerback in this year's draft. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He was so good during the 2023 season for the Tennessee Volunteers. This guy's fantastic. He's a good press man corner. He is just overall a guy that I think it fits into the shutdown, take away a side of the field bucket that the Vikings could be looking for. Now, he did miss this entire 2025 season with a torn ACL. He's named first-team All-SEC and a Jim Thorpe Award finalist in 2024. So he's my number 1 corner in this year's class. If the Vikings could somehow get him at pick number 18, which I think is unlikely, I think it would be a home run pick for Minnesota. Now, another guy here, the cornerback out of LSU, Mansour Delane. Great stuff out of Delane this past season. Really, LSU, their defense carried them the entire season. Their offense wasn't what they thought it was going to be, but this guy, the thing I love the most about him is that he truly kind of, got it out the mud. He was a former 3-star recruit, the number 59 cornerback, ended up working his way up to Virginia Tech. Then he found his way to LSU. He's a first-team All-American this year, first-team All-SEC, and a Jim Thorpe Award finalist. So clearly, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the country. He's got some swagger to him. Love LSU corners. Kind of reminds me of another LSU corner in Derek Stingley Jr. So Mansour Delane, he would be number 2 for me. And now number 3 on the cornerback list, I would probably have to go with Avion Terrell. I don't know if he falls into the true shutdown cornerback bucket. And also, I think drafting him at pick 18 would be a little rich for my liking. But, he obviously had a very good year this past season. For the Clemson Tigers, he's a sticky corner. He actually kind of reminds me, funny enough, of a Byron Murphy Jr., which I don't know if that's necessarily a guy you want to spend the 18th overall pick on, but he's probably the 3rd, 4th, 5th corner in this class. You also got a guy like Brandon Cisse of South Carolina, but we'll see what the Vikings decide to do. But if I had to call my shot in terms of hey, if the Vikings are going to trade for a guy, if they're going to sign a guy or draft a guy to kind of fit that mold as a true lockdown corner, I think it probably falls into the sign a guy where they go out there and get a Jamal Dean. They maybe try to get Alontae Taylor. Maybe it's a Reek Woolen. They view him that they could develop into that, but we'll see what happens. But if you guys made it to today's show, hit me with those SKOLs down below in the comments section. Appreciate all of you guys for watching. We'll get on out of here. SKOL Vikes.